What's good, everyone? It's Nick, and finally off that hiatus. I hope you guys are doing great, and we have a huge trade to cover right now. Well, there's a lot going on in the NFL, but there's one trade in particular that I want to cover in this video, as you saw in the thumbnail and the title, with Aaron Rodgers not coming to Denver and instead re-signing with the Green Bay Packers on a 4-year, $200 million extension. Instead, the Broncos got someone else who will inevitably bolster their offense. The Broncos seemed like they were all in on Aaron Rodgers, and that being the reason they passed up Justin Fields and Mac Jones in the draft last year. Instead, they got their quarterback. It's not Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson waived his no-trade clause and is on his way to Denver along with a 4th-round pick this year for Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, this year's 9th overall pick, a 1st-round pick next year, a 2nd-round pick for both this year and next year, and a 5th-round pick this year. But wait, according to Adam Schefter though, the Broncos acquiring Russell Wilson actually has nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay. Well, either way, the Broncos got their quarterback and now they're ready to make some noise for the first time since their Super Bowl victory in February of 2016. Russell Wilson may look like he's slowly on the decline, but the Seahawks offensive line certainly didn't do him any favors whatsoever last season. Even though Russell Wilson wasn't in peak form last year, he's definitely still a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now, and he still put up very respectable numbers last year. The Broncos offensive line isn't exactly great either, but it's still better than what the Seahawks offensive line is. Sure, this trade may be risky for the Broncos, but we've known that they have had quarterback problems since Peyton Manning was on his last legs and they had Brock Osweiler starting for the majority of the season. Even with Russell Wilson not being quite as good as he used to be, he's still easily the best quarterback the Broncos have had since Peyton Manning. The Broncos already have a potent defense and a solid running back tandem of Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. Now with a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Russell Wilson, with Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy to throw to, also Tim Patrick, the receiving core may not exactly be top tier, but those are still 3 pretty solid options who I definitely expect Russell Wilson to make better. This team should easily be in Super Bowl contention in my opinion. The Broncos really only finished last in their division because they didn't have a legit starting quarterback, and now they do. They have a future Hall of Fame quarterback. Now, while no one on the Broncos caught for over 1,000 yards last year, it's pretty hard when your starting quarterback is Teddy Bridgewater, isn't it? Although they really don't have a top tier wide receiver, but they have guys that are legitimate options to throw the ball to. There's also the possibility that the Broncos find a diamond in the rough late in the draft. They don't have a draft pick until the 4th round this year, so of course I won't count on that, but it's definitely possible. I'll start by talking about Jerry Jeudy. Let's remember that he missed 7 games last season after a high ankle sprain that he suffered in week 1. When he did come back, he did have a few pretty good games, including a 77-yard game. He couldn't find the end zone once last season though, but with Russell Wilson, I'm sure that he will definitely find the end zone as long as they're both healthy, and I expect Jerry Jeudy to take a big leap this year. I watched his rookie tape before recording this video and saw him run some pretty nice routes and have a really quick first step. Having Drew Lock as his quarterback definitely didn't help him though when he was a rookie, and having Teddy Bridgewater last year definitely didn't help him a whole lot either. He's not the guy who will blow by guys, but he can get open on short routes by making really nice cuts to create separation. He did have a problem with dropping the ball as a rookie, but last year his catch rate was significantly better, so I have a really good feeling that he could be in for a breakout year this year. Courtland Sutton's another guy that I want to talk about. He did catch for over 1,000 yards in 2019. He tore his ACL in 2020, and last year coming back from the injury, he was certainly nowhere near what he was in 2019. But with Russell Wilson throwing him the ball, and now being 2 years removed from his ACL tear, we can expect Courtland Sutton to have a bounce back year too. He may not be the fastest guy, but he's 6'4", he's a big target, and he's a very good route runner, and he's tough to bring down, so I'd look out for him too. There's also Tim Patrick on this team, and he's another guy I expect to benefit from having Russell Wilson throw him the ball. Not as a number 1 option though. I think he's more of a number 3, and he's 6'4", so there's another big target for Russell Wilson to throw the ball to. Now, as much as I hate Pat Shurmur for the horrible head coach that he was for the Giants, I would still believe in him as an offensive coordinator, and he just hasn't had a good quarterback to work with in Denver. He was able to make Case Keenum play like a Pro Bowler for 1 season in Minnesota though, and Teddy Bridgewater did throw for a career high in touchdown passes with Pat Shurmur. So I feel pretty good about the Broncos offense now that they have a quarterback. Let Russ cook in this offense. Now the AFC West has to be by far the best division quarterback wise with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, Now throw Russell Wilson into the mix. Imagine having a division where Derek Carr is your worst quarterback. That is the reality of the AFC West. Maybe I am just blanking out right now, but I don't know if we ever had a division this deep at quarterback. If we have, definitely let me know in the comments. Oh, and there's this tweet from Von Miller. Whether the Rams can replace him or not, you can't overpay for a Super Bowl, period. So yes, it was absolutely worth it for the Rams to go after him. He's been posting things on his Instagram and his Twitter that he absolutely wants to be back in Denver. The Broncos defense, for the most part, didn't do bad without him. Von Miller was traded before week 8, and the game against the Eagles, the defense gave up 23 of those 30 points because the other 7 happened when Darius Slay returned a fumble for a touchdown. Outside of the last 2 games, the Broncos, even without Von Miller, really didn't give up a lot of points and still have 2 Pro Bowlers in Justin Simmons and Bradley Chubb on that defense, as well as a star on the rise in Patrick Surtain. So now just imagine them having Von Miller back on the team. So if the Broncos don't win the Super Bowl this year, will it be a failed season? For now, I will say yes and no. Yes, because it's been the common belief that the Broncos are just a quarterback away from being back in Super Bowl contention. But also no, because there could be certain circumstances that could make the Broncos' road to the Super Bowl a lot tougher that they may be able to overcome. I don't think we'll have a clear-cut answer until the season plays out. But right now on paper, yes, the Broncos are contenders. Well, they are also in the toughest division in the NFL, though. I do still think the Broncos should look to improve their offensive line if they can, though. Just stay away from Nate Solder. What's great, though, is that they still have a lot of cap space, even while taking on Russell Wilson. Now let's talk about the Seahawks side of things, but before we do, if you are enjoying the video, if you can please consider leaving the video a like, that'd be greatly appreciated. It helps out the video with the YouTube algorithm. If you are not subscribed yet or have notifications on, if you can please consider subscribing and turning on notifications, I'd love to have you as part of the team. Now it's looking like the Seahawks are very much headed towards a rebuild after trading Russell Wilson for all those draft picks. I think this is the right move for the Seahawks. They had their peak in the mid-2010s. They also released Bobby Wagner to save $16 million in cash and salary cap space, which is another move that sounds to me like they're headed towards rebuilding. So with both Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner out the door, there are no more remaining players left from that Seahawks team that won the Super Bowl. Bobby Wagner is still a very good linebacker. He was all-pro second team and a Pro Bowler just last season, and he was cut to save money, something that makes the NFL a lot different from other sports. You don't see NBA or MLB star players get released whether the team is rebuilding or not for the sake of saving money. This sure isn't the first time at all that this has happened in the NFL, though, and it surely won't be the last. It just does make it more evident that the Seahawks are rebuilding, if the Russell Wilson trade didn't make that evident already. Now, I'll just briefly talk about the players that the Seahawks already got in return for Russell Wilson, starting with Noah Fant, who has been a starter for the Seahawks his whole career, and he is coming off a career year. He could be a building block for the Seahawks in the long run, but he definitely isn't a top tier tight end right now. Shelby Harris has been a starter for the Broncos since 2019, and he's alright. He had 6 sacks and 7 tackles for a loss last season. Drew Lock is a guy we can expect to be a career backup, but considering Geno Smith was the backup quarterback last year and is still in the team now, we can expect Drew Lock to compete with Geno Smith for the starting job, and we can expect neither of them to impress us at all. Now, this is definitely a big loss for DK Metcalf, as he's in the last year of his contract. Now, without a legit starting quarterback, it'll definitely be harder for him to get his big payday. Maybe we could see him get traded before the deadline this upcoming season. I won't say for sure, but I could definitely see him getting traded to a playoff team for more draft capital. Tyler Lockett is under contract until 2025, though, and it's definitely tough for him too. His numbers are definitely taking a hit now. So now my best advice on a rebuild, even while I'm not a GM myself, I know because I watched this tactic blow up in the faces of my team, don't try to compete and rebuild at the same time. You got your first round pick, you traded to the Jets for Jamal Adams back, and plenty more draft capital to come along with that, so you can punt this season away and hopefully you draft right and it won't be a very long rebuild. I doubt the Seahawks will make the same mistake though. On top of that, they saved $41 million by trading Russell Wilson and $16 million by cutting Bobby Wagner, so with that and all the draft capital that they got, the Seahawks are in good hands with this rebuild. I know it's been a couple years since the Seahawks did hit on a draft draft pick, but John Schneider does still have a very good track record of finding diamonds in the rough, as he did draft Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor in the 5th round, Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, Bobby Wagner in the 2nd round, or also Doug Baldwin was undrafted. Golden Tate was a 2nd round pick, and yeah, you would have rather had Emmanuel Sanders, who was drafted a round later, but Golden Tate definitely wasn't a terrible 2nd round pick. Yeah, he was a horrible free agent signing for the Giants though, but for the Seahawks I'd say he was pretty decent. I have a feeling that the Seahawks will be able to rebuild properly. The year before Russell Wilson's rookie year, the Seahawks already had their foundation, as the Legion of Boom was already being formed and they already had Marshawn Lynch. The team just needed a quarterback and they were able to get their franchise quarterback in the 3rd round, so I definitely don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that the Seahawks execute this rebuild properly, as we've seen this team build a Super Bowl team from the ground up with the same GM before. Oh, and even though DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett came after the Seahawks Super Bowl run, neither of them were 1st round picks and both turned out to be very good players. Just another reason to believe the Seahawks will do fine drafting the right guys as they begin their rebuilding process. They better put together a good offensive line though for their next franchise quarterback. Yeah, the Bengals did make the Super Bowl with the subpar offensive line, but that's also a huge reason why they lost the Super Bowl, so focus on that offensive line. Now, I know there are people who don't like this trade for the Seahawks because they are trading away a franchise quarterback who is still top 10. I feel you on that. I know there are people who think that you could retool this team and build the offensive line. This was a team that was 6-8 in the games Russell Wilson played in and 1-2 in the games he missed, so he plays a couple more games, who knows. I do still think I would believe in John Schneider to make the right picks and not make this a never-ending rebuild, as he's found all those diamonds in the rough that I mentioned before. It's crazy to me though how Pete Carroll actually managed to outlast Russell Wilson in Seattle though. Pete Carroll is the oldest head coach in the NFL, and I don't know if someone like that really wants to be part of a rebuild, and even if he does, I'm not sure he'll be the right guy. I'd rather have a young coach be able to build from the ground up with, or a bridge coach. I'm not a GM, but that's just my thinking. But also, I don't care how long ago this was, this is still one of the worst play calls I've ever seen in my lifetime. I just had to throw that in there. Now, as I was getting ready to record this video, I did also get the news that the Washington Commanders got Carson Wentz. I'll keep this short. I'm not scared to face him twice a year at all, and that's saying a lot for how bad my team has been outside of one season the last 10 years. So that's all I got for this video. Please remember to consider liking the video for the YouTube algorithm. Please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you never miss another video. I greatly appreciate your support and I'd love to have you as a part of the team. Links to my social media are down in the description. I will follow back. Please let me know what you think of the Russell Wilson trade, and also we can discuss Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay as well. We can also talk about Carson Wentz as well if you'd like. I'd love to discuss all these things with you. Maybe tell me where you think Bobby Wagner is heading. Oh, imagine if he joins Russell Wilson in Denver and that already potent defense gets even better. Now, if you want to click either of these videos up above, I'm sure you'll enjoy one or the other. I'd greatly appreciate if you watch one or the other. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.